Oh, yes, oh, yes, oh, yes. The Honorable Superior Court for the County of Wake is now sitting for the special setting. The Honorable Brian Collins, President presiding. Oh, yes, oh, yes, oh, yes. God save the state and this Honorable Court. Please be seated and remain quiet. All electronic devices need to be shut off at this time. Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Sheriff. Good afternoon, everybody.
I want to welcome all of you to this special ceremonial session of the Wake County Superior Court. It's my great pleasure to be here. It's one of the most fun things I do in my job. I wanted to remind everybody this is a celebration of these folks' lives. And the rules of court are relaxed. Please feel free to take pictures, to laugh, to cry, to talk. It's fine. This is a celebration. So, this time I'm going to turn the program over to Lenore Hodge, President of the 10th Judicial District Bar.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am pleased and honored to bring you greetings on behalf of the more than 6,000 lawyers who are the 10th Judicial District Bar, where we align and connect around our mission, which is to advance the administration of justice and to enhance the public's understanding of the role of lawyers and the rule of law. As the judge said, this is a really special occasion. We are honored that you allow us to reflect on the lives of your loved ones, their contribution to society, and to remember the ways in which they shared themselves with those of us who practice law in Wake County. This session happens because we have lawyer volunteers who dedicate valuable time and attention, and I want to thank them. Mary Winstead, who is the chair of the Memorials Committee, and the Memorials Committee, some of whom are here today. Also, as lawyers who make up the 10th Judicial District Bar, we have a lot of good ideas and we think this is one of them, but we could not execute them without the help of the Wake County Bar and 10th Judicial District Bar staff, Whitney Von Ham, Executive Director, Nathaniel Adcock, who supports the work of the Memorials Committee, and Mandy Howard, who is here with us also today. Again, we want to thank you for allowing us to remember your loved ones today and honor and reflect on their contribution. Now Mary Winstead will come forward with a few remarks.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. As chair of the Memorials Committee, it is my privilege to welcome you to this special memorial session of court. Several times each year, we gather in this courtroom to honor members of our profession who have passed away. These special sessions of court serve as an important reminder that while legal careers are often measured by cases handled, clients served, or accomplishments achieved, a lawyer's true legacy is found in the lives they touched and the communities they helped shape. Today's memorial session is one small way of expressing our gratitude. It is fitting that we gather in a courtroom to memorialize our former colleagues. For those we honor, the courthouse was more than a mere workplace. It was where our honorees advocated for clients, forged professional relationships, mentored younger attorneys, and devoted themselves to the administration of justice. Today, we gather to remember 3 distinguished attorneys whose contributions to the practice of law, to our bar, and to our community continue to resonate. We are grateful for their service, their leadership, and the example they set for those who follow in their footsteps. We remember them with gratitude, honor them with respect, and celebrate the enduring legacy each of them leaves behind. We are equally grateful to you, their families, friends, and former colleagues. Thank you for sharing them with us and for joining us today here as we celebrate their lives and in so doing preserve their memories. It is my hope that this time together offers a meaningful opportunity for reflection and remembrance, while also allowing us to share stories, smiles, and moments of connection that honor the fullness of the lives of those to whom we pay tribute. Our first honoree is Gordon Eugene Boyce, and he will be remembered by Lacy Presnell.
Gordon Eugene Boyce was an extraordinary lawyer. He combined a keen intellect, meticulous preparation, and a quiet tenacity with a strong empathy for all of his clients. He exhibited an unwavering commitment to justice and also to the high standards of being a lawyer. No doubt he was a lawyer's lawyer, as countless lawyers through the years called upon Gene for advice, for representation, or for help with solving some of their own clients' problems. Gene died in October of last year. As a past president of the Wake County Bar Association, he appreciated the strong tradition of this opportunity to honor lawyers during a memorial session of court. On a personal note, I'll be forever grateful to Gene for being a friend and mentor and for giving me the opportunity and experience to practice law with him for 10 years. I consider it an honor to deliver this tribute. Family was very important to Gene. He and his beloved wife, Patricia Alphen Boyce, who passed away 30 days after Gene's death, were married for 71 years, and today would have been their 72nd wedding anniversary. Together they raised 3 wonderful children, and they were very proud of their children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. We're pleased to have these family members present today, and we're glad to welcome Kathy Howard, Dan and Betty Boyce, and Lauren Philip Isley, along with granddaughters Sarah and Grace. Growing up in Raleigh, Gene's father was a newspaper typesetter and his mother a school teacher. During college at Wake Forest, Gene was considered an academic phenom, and somehow he found time to also be the head cheerleader and president of the student body, a trifecta that I doubt will ever be repeated anywhere. Gene Boyce's legal career began after he graduated at the top of his class from Wake Forest Law School. And I remember so well Gene enjoying to tell people that after a full day of class and long and tiring hours of studying in the law library at Wake Forest, that he and his classmates would take a break at the end of the afternoon, and on many of those afternoons would look out and would see this young swashbuckling undergraduate named Arnold Palmer walking back to his room with a golf bag over his shoulder. Sometimes Gene's classmates would comment, well, maybe he had more fun today than we did, but at least we're going to make something of our lives. Well, some of Gene's classmates may have been surprised with Arnold Palmer's remarkable career, but none of them would be surprised or were surprised with the success and impact that Gene Boyce's legal career. Gene maintained many law school friendships through the Deacon Fishing Bunch, a group of lawyers that would gather from time to time and enjoy fellowship and storytelling. Gene served in the United States Army Judge Advocate General's Corps before returning to Raleigh to practice law with the firm of Fletcher, Lake, and Boyce. He later was the founding partner in a medium-sized firm where he hired me directly out of law school. He also practiced with 2 large firms and later with Boyce and Isley, a family law firm. Even though the settings and the sizes of the firms changed, Gene's approach to the law never changed. He was lead counsel in a series of monumental class action lawsuits that resulted in record recoveries. The Bailey case challenged the unconstitutional taxation of public and federal retirees, and the Smith-Shaver case was brought on behalf of intangible taxpayers. It's interesting that two of the lead plaintiffs in these cases were retired judges. I first met Gene in the summer of 1973, right after I graduated from college, and shortly after he and I began working with the United States Senate Select Committee on Presidential Campaign Activities, better known as the Senate Watergate Committee. Fortunately, Rufus Edmiston, who's here today, is a very persuasive person. And by the way, Rufus gave a very eloquent remembrance of Gene at the memorial service at Hayes Barton Baptist Church. But Rufus somehow persuaded Gene to join the Senate Watergate Committee as Assistant Chief Counsel. There, Gene was instrumental in beginning the early use of computers by a congressional committee. And Gene and I also made numerous trips in the fall of 1973 to Texas, where we interviewed witnesses and investigated cash and Mexican check contributions made to the committee to re-elect the president that found their way into the bank account of one of the Watergate burglars. One of the most significant breakthroughs of the Watergate Committee that ultimately led to President Nixon's resignation came from witness Alexander Butterfield. Gene was one of 3 staff members present on July 13, 1973, when Butterfield revealed the White House taping system for the very first time. After that Friday afternoon with Butterfield, Gene and I rode together to Raleigh for the weekend, and we returned back to D.C. after the weekend. It's not surprising that although we had lots of conversations during those 2 trips, Gene never mentioned anything about taping or Alexander Butterfield. And he held true, as always, to his promise of secrecy until Butterfield testified in the televised hearings the following Monday. Fortunately, all Gene told me Monday morning was, make sure you're in the hearing room for the next witness. Gene's life and experiences and law career are chronicled in this recent book, Uncovering the Nixon Tapes, Memoir of a North Carolina Attorney and Watergate Assistant Chief Counsel, co-written by Gene Boyce and Don Rayno, who's also with us today. Gene's generosity made a tremendous impact on universities, law schools, and our community. Most notably, Pat and Gene endowed several scholarships and provided significant support for other programs at Wake Forest University and the Wake Forest School of Law. Dean Andrew Klein of Wake Forest School of Law offered the following statement. When I arrived at Wake Forest, one of the first people that I learned about was Gene Boyce. It was hard for that not to be the case. The Dean's Suite in the World Professional Center bears his name, and I quickly learned about his extraordinary generosity and support for the law school. But it did not take long to understand that Gene's impact extended far beyond philanthropy. Gene embodied what is special about Wake Forest. He treated people with kindness, led with humility, and always looked for ways to lift others up. Another Wake Forest tribute stated, Gene Boyce's relationship with Wake Forest was a lifelong love affair. He was a campus leader in his youth, half of a legendary Wake Forest couple, and ultimately one of the institution's most dedicated benefactors. Gene was just as meticulous with his philanthropy as he was in his law practice. Rich Leonard, Campbell Law School Dean, recalls, "It took about 20 breakfast meetings to convince Gene that I could be trusted, and Campbell Law School was a place worthy of his resources. But then he was all in. His generous gifts over the years led us to set up the Boyce Advocacy Center, and through it become one of the top competitive advocacy schools in the nation." Gene also played a key role in establishing the Smith-Shaver Scholarship Fund. In the Smith-Shaver class action suit, Judge Howard Manning Jr. entered an order providing $6 million to create this scholarship fund. Judge Manning expressed a hope that the fund would enable lawyers who receive the scholarship to take on difficult and unpopular cases as the lawyers in the Smith-Shaver case had done. Smith-Shaver law scholarships have provided support for students at the law schools in North Carolina that include Campbell University, Duke University, North Carolina Central University, the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and Wake Forest University. There have been over 280 Smith-Shaver scholars to date, and the total scholarship payments are expected to exceed $6 million by the end of this year. Importantly, sufficient funds remain to continue to support future law students in need of financial assistance. Gene Boyce will long be remembered. Future students will benefit greatly from his generosity. That positive impact will also benefit clients of those who become outstanding lawyers. Important legal precedents established by cases in which he was involved will be discussed in courtrooms like this one for years to come. This is a fitting legacy for an extraordinary lawyer. Thank you.
You know, I was listening to my good friend Lacy Presnell talk about another, actually a friend of mine, Gene Boyce, and I now know how the second singer after Frank Sinatra sang gets ready to talk. So well done, Gene. It's also, I would say, really appropriate that Bruce McDaniel. Many of you don't know who Bruce is. Bruce is a guy who I practiced law with for a number of years and was a dear friend and a mentor to me. And I'm not sure friends and mentors mean enough today, but Bruce was that guy for me. For 50 years or so, we would talk about cases and things of that nature. So here's what I want to tell you all about Bruce McDaniel. There are basically three things. Number one, this guy was a self-made man. And I'll go into detail of what a self-made man is. He was also, he loved being a lawyer. He loved the law, but he loved being a lawyer. And like so many people of his generation, born in the 30s, lived through the war as a kid, started practicing law in the 50s and 60s in the military, is that this guy loved his family. He absolutely loved his family. And so it is my special thanks for Noel and Kevin and Clayton and Isaac and the second Ann, and I'll talk about that in a second. We're talking about and asking me to speak to that. So here's the deal. Look, Bruce was asked. He put it here. So he was a good lawyer. He was an accomplished lawyer. He knew his stuff. So he was in law school from 1951 from undergraduate from 51 through law school in 1957. Spent 3 years in the Air Force. Spent 2 or 3 years with the SEC. And then he came back to practice law in early, about 57, in the early 60s. Clayton, am I right? In the early 60s, he came back to practice law. And people, and I will tell you, I saw Gene Boyce in criminal court tried. So the people of that era, and Bruce and Gene were in the same class, along with Earl Brett, federal judge, Ron Delphi, renowned defense lawyer. Bruce was in that class with those guys at Wake Forest, and he was a product of that era. Hey, Bruce tried domestic cases, he tried criminal cases, he appointed clients, but he also did a private placement offering. Anybody know what a private, I'm not sure what, I was there when he did it. Private placement offering. He also has certified a class action. How many people in this county and this round have done certified a class action? He's a corporate lawyer, but he absolutely loved practicing law. He loved being a lawyer, and he loved talking about his friends, Gene and his wife, Ron Delphi and his wife, and Earl Brett. I had dinner with him when he first came to town. These are the people that Bruce hung around with and did that. So let me tell you about being, what I say. First thing, Bruce was a self-made man. What do you mean by a self-made man? He grew up in a little town, a suburb of Fayetteville. Not Fayetteville, but a suburb, what is it? Silver Lake, just right outside. It was a small town, working class. Everything I know, by the way, Noel, everything I know about your dad is what he told me about his life. So if I say something wrong, you don't remember it, well, it's my story and you can't correct me today. But anyway, he grew up there and about 12 years old, had an older brother, had a father and a mother, his parents. I did not hear one word that your dad spoke about his parents. At 12 years old, he decided he was going to read. He started reading like crazy. When he got out of high school, so he was born in 33, so he got out, so it's early, so he got ready, went through high school, played football. Bruce was 130 pounds soaking wet. I said, Bruce, oh, wait a minute, don't give me these stories. You didn't play football. I did play football. Did you play a lot? I did play football. But anyway, that was self-made. He read, he did that, and he said, well, how'd you get to Wake Forest? He went to Wake Forest. How'd you get there? And he said, well, back in the early 1950s, after the war and everything, Duke, Carolina, Wake were all about the same price. It wasn't much, but it's more money than I had. So I got in my transcript, and I don't think he had a car. I don't know how he got to all these places, but I went up to each of the registrars, and Wake Forest admitted me and said, could have gone to the other two. Why did I go to Wake Forest? Well, first of all, I always wanted to go to Wake Forest. It was the same price, and they gave me a job. Talking about Arnold Palmer, when you mentioned about Arnold Palmer, Bruce worked in the cafeteria for the athletes. That's how he jobbed. He earned his way through college, through law school, by working through all the way there. How many people you know? I never once heard him say he got any help from home. So he was a self-made man. And then, a lot of people come and get into the big firm, and all I know is I had my parents pay for my education. I paid for my kids. He paid $1 every bit of his money that he had. So anyway, so he gets in here and he does all his private placement, class action, corporate lawyer, criminal general practice, and everything. And so he comes in here, and what does he do when we sit around talking? I practiced law with him a long time, 40 years of driving him to Wake Forest football games in Winston-Salem was tough. And why did I drive him? Because he was the worst driver I have ever seen. I had a friend, Ray Madry, was another Wake Forest guy, and he couldn't do it one time. And he said, "Dick, you can't do this anymore. Bruce is going to kill us." But anyway, so the question is, so he started talking about his friends, talking about being lawyers, being loved being a lawyer. And he said, you know, here's the smartest guy I ever knew. Eugene Boyce. It's interesting that the same class, they have the memorial service to one of the, he talked, Danny, he talked to your dad, your mom, the same thing with Ron Delty and all that. He loved being a lawyer. He used to go on trips with the Bar Association. Why did he go on trips with the bar? Well, he liked to travel, but he hung around lawyers. He just loved being a lawyer. Practiced law probably too long. Why did he practice, continue going the same day and day, coming in there? Why did he do that? He liked being a lawyer. And I think that is a remarkable thing that I'm not sure we find that today and we go in that thing. So any event, so we have this stuff. So he's a self-made man, and he had to pay for all his stuff. He was so tight. And when he had a chance to buy a car, he bought the cheapest car off the lot. Always bought the cheapest car. He had pretty good money. And he would wear clothes forever. You laugh at it. Am I right? He wore the same dadgum suit for freaking ever. Bruce, what you doing at? Well, it's my father-in-law died at 102. Yeah, he gave that, and I like this red sport coat in the year 2000, wherever. But anyway, good. But one of the things that it seems to go for transcend people coming in here, and I listened to Gene, and is that he loved his family. He loved his wife, Ann. Ann, he met at, so remember he lived right outside of Fort Bragg. He met Ann, whose father was in the military, who was one of the soldiers at Pearl Harbor during the Pearl Harbor attack. And I was at Pearl Harbor, and I found the house that Ann McDaniel, Bruce's wife, that he met at the PX, that he hustled. He said, I hustled her. She ran too hard sometimes, but I found her. I got her again. And so she was living right in the flight pattern of the Japanese planes that came in from the north over Marine Base and over Pearl Harbor, and her housing. And I was there. I've been into Pearl Harbor. I saw where she lived. And Japanese pilots would. She was 3 years old when she saw that. And at times I just happened to do that. But Bruce loved her dearly. And let me tell you, he had 3 lovely kids. And again, Clayton, Isaac, all you boys, thanks for being here. But he would, some people played golf. Some people played tennis all the time. Some people, but he constantly was with his family. Ann had some depression issues later in her life and had cancer. And she suffered dearly. Bruce McDaniel stayed with her constantly. I'm kind of breaking up when I'm thinking about how much he took care of that lady. And she finally passed away. Wonderful person. Loved Bruce dearly. Bruce loved her dearly. But he would always talk about his family, all his kids, even Clayton. Clayton is the only he's the boy in the family. So we coming in here. But anyway, he did that, constantly doing that. So here's the deal. So Bruce retired. He told me, he said, I practiced maybe too many years, too long. But that's because he loved being a lawyer. That's because he grew up in the Depression era and made himself, made himself being a lawyer. He loved it. But anyway, so I said, I was sitting there with my wife, Linda, and I said, I haven't talked with Bruce in a while. He said, I need to get up with Bruce. So I give him a call, and he was retired, and Clayton had some health problems, and I said, Bruce, I haven't seen you in a while. Can I get together? He said, Dick, this is the most wonderful thing. I am so glad you called. Is there anything I can do to help you? No. I want to come in here. It's your birthday. He said, I'll tell you what, and Bruce liked gin. Bruce loved gin. So the Saturday, the day before his birthday, I come over here with a big bottle of really good gin. What's the name of the gin over in Conniption Gin from Durham? It's really good stuff and expensive too. And so I come in here and so we got here and we sat and talked probably about baseball. This is the day before his birthday, 90th birthday. We talked about baseball. Clayton, you were there. 2 hours, 3 hours, he was running about all the Wake Forest baseball team and everything. We're weird. We're really weird. But anyway, so there was Clayton. I was really concerned. I brought him a bottle of gin. And Clayton poured him a gin. This is noontime. Clayton, you poured him some gin? I'm a little embarrassed to have brought that. He said, don't worry about it. He can't taste it anyway. I didn't make it very strong. So anyway, and then had a great time. Had my mentor, my friend, and about 2 days later he passed away. And so I was telling this story. I really felt good about that. I was telling this story to my son-in-law who's in the house just this morning. I said, I think I'm going to tell this story. He said, Dick, let me get this straight. You came up and he said, it happened to me one other time. I talked to somebody and they passed away. He said, if I were your friends and you called them, I think I wouldn't accept your call. So anyway, that's my story about my friend and my mentor who taught me so much about life, practicing law, and thank you, people.
Next honoree is Alice Batts Phillips, and she will be presented by Matt Viva.
I'm going to ask everyone's patience with me today. I'm an in-house counsel, so I'm not used to being in the courthouse. In fact, I think the last time I was in a courthouse was when I worked with Kathy Stewart. And then I left, and I'm in boardrooms now, so I'm not used to talking to this many people. In fact, I'm not used to being here without my outside counsel behind me, kind of telling me what to say and what to do. My name's Matt Viva. I've been a member of the bar since 2015. I've practiced here in North Carolina. Most recently, I was with the in-house group at Novella Clinical, IQVIA Biotech. Now I'm in-house counsel at GCAR, which is a clinical research organization.
We're among friends.
And we're not looking for outside counsel. I met Alice at IQVIA Biotech. I met Alice at Novella Clinical when we were there, and she was my mentor. And so when I was asked to do this by Stan Patterson back there, another Novella Clinical alum, I think PharmaLink actually was the original name, I was deeply touched that him and Busy and Luke, her son and daughter back there, would want me to do this. Alice made such an impact in my life, and it's such an honor for me to sit here and talk to you all about her. So let's talk about it. She was born and raised in North Carolina, lived in Wilmington, went to school in New Hanover County, went to school at college in Meredith, where she got her paralegal certification, and did business and did corporate law as well there. Then she became a paralegal, kind of seeing the ins and outs of the industry in that way. Had one brief foray in South Carolina, but we're not going to hold that against her because in our 20s we all make mistakes. She came back to the state, went to Campbell Law School, got her law degree, and then she went and she started serving the state. She was an assistant district attorney in Duplin and Onslow counties, and then in Mecklenburg County. And then she served for 4 years as a felony prosecutor here in Wake County. And then she went from that cutthroat lifestyle into even more cutthroat of the boardroom and joined a lot of attorneys in in-house work at Novella Clinical PharmaLink, where she served there faithfully for 15 years. She did all sorts of things there. Started off as a contracts associate, reading contracts all day, lease agreements, and then eventually did everything, FDA audits, litigation, boardrooms, executives, things like that. Her 23 practice, she has 23 years of practice from 1999 to 2022, all in North Carolina. She excelled here, she was a product of here, and she always wanted to be here in North Carolina. Of the 15 years at Novella Clinical and at Viva Biotech, I knew her for 3 of those years. She brought me into her in-house department. And really, I'm a father, and I have a 4-year-old, and I'll tell you, 3 years goes by like that. But so much can change in those 3 years. And I really think that the impact that she had on my life in those 3 years made me into the person I am today and the attorney that I am today. So she had professional successes, dry ink on a contract, or actually more appropriately, the DocuSign confirmation of a contract being signed, winning negotiations. She enjoyed solving problems. Everything was a little puzzle to be solved. That's where she looked at things. But more than anything, I think she enjoyed helping people get to a solution for the legal issues they had, finding the right indemnification language, coming to a meeting of the minds on IP. And she enjoyed helping build not just executives, not just board members, but her employees. She was always there for myself, for the other attorneys that worked for her, always there to lend a helping hand. She was never too busy for us. We would come into her office at any point, sit down. She'd open up her life to us and let us, barge in with any of the problems that we had. I reached out to other attorneys at the time, Anna Averett, Carrie Randa, Rob Gardner, all attorneys that have gone on to be in-house counsels in their own right that were mentored by Alice. And all of them had one thing to say, that she was the best boss that they've ever had, the best person they've ever known, someone that always had compassion and integrity and empathy. And I can't disagree with them at all. When I was with Alice, she was the pinnacle of what I think of when people say that being an attorney is a profession, not a job. It's a professional endeavor that you need to treat with the respect that it deserves. She approached everything with, at foremost, the competency that it deserved, but also, which I think is so important in our industry, the empathy that needs to happen and the integrity for getting to the next solution. Empathy in the corporate world might sound like an anachronism, but the ability to understand the other side, that was something that Alice really brought to the table. Understand where people were coming from, understand what they tried to do and what incentives they needed to reach, and how to bridge that gap. And that's something she really helped me understand. Everyone's trying to get somewhere. There's a lot of posturing, a lot of threats that need to happen or whatever, but there's a fire burning on everyone, and you need to find what that fire is, and that's how you get to a deal. That's how you get to a solution that kind of benefits both sides. She was an exceptional in-house counsel. And when I say that is, I view in-house counsel, I did, as a pillar of an organization. They are the thankless pile of stone that sits in a building and holds up the roof from caving in. Now, when I talk to the people underneath me and the executives in my current company, I've changed the analogy, and I view it more as a crawl space instead of a pillar. It's the dirty, dingy place underneath the house where all the fun stuff's happening up there. But that's where your HVAC is, that's where your plumbing is, that's where your electrical is, and anything breaks, that's the most expensive problems to have. Also, a lot of spiders there, that's why they love sending attorneys down there. She was great with that unknown, in that dinginess with those spiders, understanding what the risk is, being comfortable in that unknown, sitting with silence, and not feeling like you needed to jump forward. And she'd tell me sometimes that I like the sound of my own voice too much, and I need to slow down a little bit. And those were words that I still am having trouble dealing with, but I'm still learning. She was a wonderful person, a wonderful boss, a wonderful mentor, and a great attorney. And the families here, they can tell all that you want to her. Stan Patterson, who worked with her for 15 years, is here. She passed away from breast cancer in 2022. But she was more than her job. She was a mentor to me. She was a mentor to several others. She was an avid runner. In the early days of COVID, we would have our one-on-ones, but they were running around Lake Lynn, or they were on a walk in the neighborhood. She's the reason why I lost 15 pounds during COVID while everyone else gained 20. She's actually the reason why I wanted to wear the suit that I wore to my first day of work with her, and I can't fit in that suit anymore. So, for good reasons, that's all nice. She's a loyal friend to Minnie, a loving daughter, and a loving mother to Busy and Luke. I don't want to be maudlin, Busy and Luke. She was always talking about y'all. Every time I had a meeting with her, she was always bringing it back to you two and the various things that y'all would do. Usually it was the next Disney cruise y'all were being on. If anyone knows Alice Phillips, she loved her Disney vacation. And I learned that because I think on my third week, I thought I'd blown my relationship with her because I informed her that me and my wife were going on a second honeymoon to Orlando, and we were not going to Disney World. We were going to Harry Potter World, and that was a great offense. It took a little while for us to repair that relationship. We made it. But for Alice, it almost felt like work was what you did in between Disney cruises. Work was what you did in between those times that you could spend with family and with friends. And that is something that I've really taken to heart, especially with my two boys. That's something that I want to know that I'm a person outside of the boardroom. Importantly, kind of touching on the family with Busy and Luke, I remember something that came off on the conversations we had is that y'all were teenagers when we were talking. And I remember thinking, wow, her teenagers really like spending time with her. Like, that's something I really want in my life at some point. And so we'll get there. I have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. Jury's out on that one. I'll say the last conversation I had with Alice was after I'd left IQVIA and had joined the in-house role at GCAR. And I would come to her with problems over the time. If here's what I'm dealing with, what do you suggest? Like, oh, this executive's being this way, the junior attorney kind of isn't really, is being bristly towards me, like would you deal with this? The last conversation I had with her, it was on a walk around the neighborhood. And it was not about any of those things. It was about my son, who I had learned earlier that my wife was pregnant, and I had learned that we were having a boy, and I was not allowed to tell anyone that we were having a boy. But I was going to tell Alice. And I wish I could tell you what she told me during that conversation. I came to her scared, never been a father before. Like, your teenagers love hanging out with you. You must be doing something right. Let me know. And I don't remember what she said, but I do remember how I felt coming out of that conversation. I remember feeling confidence that she thought I could do it, and that she was so excited for me to do that. And the sentiment of how much her own children enriched her life. And I remember feeling that and coming out of that, thinking I can do that. And that was how Alice approached all of our times together, all of the times with any of her employees. She believed in you wholeheartedly. She let you know that you could do it. And you went out and did it, and people ran through brick walls for her. I would love to tell you all the different corporate accolades that she had, working from Novella Clinical, IQVIA Biotech to IQVIA RDS, the largest contract research organization in the world. She excelled at everything she did, and she will truly be missed. That's who she was. I am better for having known her. I am a better attorney. I'm a better person. And I'm very honored that I could be here today to speak with you all about her. Thank you.
This concludes our program. I always leave these memorial sessions with a renewed appreciation for our profession and for the remarkable individuals who have been a part of it. Please take with you today, as you leave this courtroom, wonderful memories of these fantastic tributes, as well as the assurance that the contributions of these three attorneys enriched our courts, strengthened our bar, and benefited countless clients, colleagues, and citizens. On behalf of the Memorials Committee, I would like to thank everyone who helped make this session possible. I want to give my sincere appreciation to Judge Collins, who always, I don't know how he does it, maybe the Allen charge somehow, he clears his schedule so that he can be here for these sessions, because as he says, he truly loves it. We're also grateful to our bailiff and our clerk, because it wouldn't be a session of court without them. Also, Leonore Hodge, who takes time out of her schedule to be here, and she has already thanked Nathaniel and Whitney and Mandy for their part in this program today. So thank you all. I'm not like Lacy and all of our other speakers who are able to read without notes at this point. But as you have noticed, the session was being recorded. Brian Miller, our videographer, will incorporate some photographs that the families have provided into a great video, and it'll be on the Wake County Bar Association YouTube site for your viewing into posterity. Thank you all for sharing your family members with us, and thank you for being here today.
Well, the biggest thanks of all is to Mary Winston.
Mary, this would not happen without you. Before we adjourn, I want to invite you to stick around and visit with each other. We don't get a chance to do that very much, and I think it's an important thing to do. We don't have anything else to do in this courtroom today. You're welcome to stay as long as you would like and visit. I'd like to meet family members, folks I don't know. So please do that. Mr. Sheriff, please place this special session of the Wake County Superior Court into adjournment. Signing documents.
Yes, Your Honor. All rise. Oh, yes, yes, yes. This Honorable Superior Court now stands adjourned. Signing doc, God save the state and this honorable court.
Thank you very much.